Now this has been pretty complicated, so let's briefly revisit the main takeaways before we move forward. One takeaway is simply the need to convert between different types, like converting a date to its string representation or its string version, in order to print it. If we put together strings using that plus sign, then we have to do that conversion manually. But if we let the print statement take care of it by putting them with a comma, then we can just leave them as is. This is what we'll usually see in this course. Secondly, this has been a useful demonstration of how we can actually put functions or methods directly into other functions or methods, rather than storing the results into a variable. That's a pretty advanced topic, and don't worry if it doesn't make sense right now, we'll cover it a lot more later. But for now, just notice how it didn't matter if we stored today's date into myDate, or put it directly into our string conversion function. And similarly, it didn't matter if we stored its string representation as a variable, like myDate as string, or if we converted it directly while trying to print it. Whenever Python tries to run a line of code that has function calls like string or variables like myDate, it goes through a process of one by one looking up their values or looking up their results and replacing what's in the line of code with those values or results. So when Python runs line 10, for example, the first thing it does is it replaces myDate with the value of myDate, which in this case is 9/22/2016. It's as if the rest of this line stays exactly the same and only myDate is replaced with the actual value of today's date. It then runs the string conversion function on that, and so it replaces that value with the string 2016-09-22. Again, now it's just like the rest of this line is exactly the same, it's just instead of string of myDate, it now actually has the string representing today's date. It now would run that plus sign to put the two together, and so this entire thing is now replaced by this full string. It's just taken those two original strings, the date and the label, and put them together into just one string. So the result is as if we had just said print that text in the first place. And that's exactly what we see in our output. If you ever have trouble understanding how a line of code works, try to go through it step by step, replacing each variable name with its value and each function with whatever the result of that function would be. Don't worry about understanding that fully right now. Understanding computing at that level is really the goal of this entire course.